Oh, no, that's Bill Collins.
My kids had a great time with those. Yeah. Yeah, I taught my daughter how to drive on it. You know. Why are you on
You have to get close to the speaker, if that's possible.
Yeah, okay.
what map are you referring to? Oh, okay. Good. Do you have like a big speaker in the middle of you, or how is this working? Okay.
I'll call to order this special meeting of the City Council of the City of Pacifica for November 29th, 2018. And can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martin. Here. Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Degree.
Present.
I'd just like to note for the record that Councilmember Degree is participating by telephone from a dial-in location off-site. So we'll be doing roll call votes for this meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Vaterlaus.
Here.
Mayor Keener.
Here. Okay, we'll have a salute to the flag led by Deirdre Martin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. This is on the consent calendar. I didn't notice that before. I'm going to read it anyway. The first item is a memorandum of understanding with the Teamsters Local 350 department directors. And for anybody in the public that's either listening or watching on television, this is a very small union that we're settling with, and they're getting the same deal that everybody else got, 2% a year for 3 years, and slightly increased healthcare caps. So, does anybody?
Public comment.
It's consent calendar.
It's a consent
Yeah,
calendar.
but somebody can pull something off the consent.
Yeah, and nobody has so far.
Nothing?
I'll move.
Yeah.
I'll second.
I move. Yeah.
Okay. A motion by Mike O'Neill to accept the consent calendar, second by Deirdre Martin. Please vote. And remember, we're going to have a roll call vote because of Sue Degree.
For the consent item number 1, we'll vote by Councilmember Martin.
Approve.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Yeah.
Councilmember Degree.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Vaterlaus.
Yes.
Mayor Keener.
Yes.
That's a 5-0 vote approved for item number 1 on consent.
All right. Great. And that worked. Okay. On to the public hearing, which is why we're all here. And this is to receive input from the community regarding district maps for city council elections, district boundaries, and sequencing of elections. And can I have a staff report, please?
On September 24th, 2018, the City Council adopted resolution number 44-2018, initiating the process to transition from an at-large election system to a district-based election system. Pursuant to Elections Code 10010, we held public hearings on October 8th, 2018, October 22nd, 2018, and November 17th, 2018 to discuss the districting process. November 17th, 2018 was the first public hearing in which we reviewed draft maps. This will be the second of the 2 required public hearings on draft maps to move forward with proposing an ordinance for districting. I'd like to introduce Shalise Tilton from National Demographics Corporation, and she will go through the draft maps that are being presented at this meeting, options 504 and 505, which take the responses from public feedback that was taken at the public hearing on November 17th and the council discussion and guidance from that meeting, and incorporate that into these revised draft maps that were published on November 21st, 2018 for consideration.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. I just learned that a member of the public representing the Fairmont Association submitted a map on the deadline date, and apparently it was missed. I have trying to find out what happened with that. I did recognize the text of the email. It was CC'd to several of the staff members, but didn't recognize there was an attachment to it until it was pointed out to me today. So we are retrieving that original email that was sent, and unfortunately, and as I explained to the gentleman who submitted it, unfortunately the law doesn't allow us to discuss his specific map because it wasn't published 10 days in advance. However, what we can do is take one of the maps that was published, and if there are districts that closely resemble, we can make modifications to that. So it's an unfortunate oversight that I've not had happen, and I just tried to send a text to see if they can figure out what happened with that submission. It should not have happened. We will continue to produce that map, but unfortunately we can't talk about that. That would be a newly introduced map. Certainly we can talk about, the speaker could introduce his map and talk about the changes, and we could base it off an existing published map to see if we could make some modifications to achieve the submitter's goals. From our last meeting, and we have a greater advantage from tonight than we did at the previous meeting.
Can I interrupt for a minute?
Yes.
Hello? I think you're going to need to put the speaker closer to the person speaking, because the last 6 sentences kind of were very difficult for me to understand.
Okay.
Yeah, just try to get closer to the microphone when you're speaking. Let's see if that works, Sue. Okay?
Okay, hopefully the sound is a little bit better when I'm closer.
Does
Much
that
better.
help, Sue?
Yeah, because there's kind of like an echo, so yeah, go ahead and continue. Just so you know, I'm having a little hard time hearing things.
Okay.
So when we last met on the Saturday, the last Saturday that we met, we took a couple of the existing maps, and the City Council asked for a revision to try to keep Valamar whole and to align or to revise District 1 to include Council Member Batterlaw's district, so that the sequencing would be more easily facilitated in a 2020 election. The reason why a 2020 election is significant is because that particular area then would be up first, and there's been some comments that's an underrepresented area, and that's an opportunity to have it cycle in the 2020. That also happens to be the area that has the highest citizen voting age population for your Asian American population. Indicates that as map 5 and 504 and 505 are drawn, we have a very strong, we haven't diluted the voting strength. In fact, we probably strengthened the power of that protected class group. So tonight, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hopefully identify a map that suits the city's needs. I have all 5 maps here that we can bring back and forth and look at. The advantage we have over our last meeting is that we now have the census blocks. So if there do need to be minor modifications, we can look easily at the census blocks and see how that would affect the map. The reason why census blocks are important, as this council knows, is that we must follow the federal census blocks when we draw the lines. Pacifica has some odd census block configurations. Some of them are extremely large, and some of them are very small. But as we zoom in closely, right now I'm looking at the interactive map viewer that's available at drawpacifica.org. So if you go under the Draw a Map tab, you can go to the interactive map viewer, and you can bring up any of the layers show the different maps. So we have maps 102, 501, I'm sorry, 502, 503, 504, 505. And on this particular map, I've selected 504 just as a starting point. And I've also selected the census blocks. This shows the census blocks and how they're drawn. If we zoom in closely, you can see the population in those census blocks appears. So we didn't have this advantage last time when the direction was to try to keep Valimar as a whole and to also bring down District 1 further south and a little bit west. So what happened when we tried to achieve the goals is we're dealing with the large census block in the Valimar area, and so it created, it precluded us from achieving one of the council's goals, which was that all districts touch the ocean. So we ended up producing not just one map, but 2 maps trying to respect the goals previously defined by the City Council. So map 504 accomplishes having each district touch a portion of the ocean. What we had to do in 504 is split the census block. We split a census block at the very top of the map because we were able to, from satellite imagery, determine that that particular area is absolutely not populated. So we were able to split the census block in that fashion. You can see there's a small census block that's all on its own that's 0, and then the census block right next to it is part of this really long one that has 448. So we run the line across here so that District 1 could touch the ocean. And we brought the District 1 down on the right-hand side so that it picks up Batterlaw's residents. However, down in this area, it picked up a large section just because of this. These are down in the, I'm sorry, let me get this off of here. Because of those large census blocks, we ended up picking up a large section of the area for Valimar. So to adjust for that, we created a second option, 505, which does not have each district touching the ocean. However, we did extend District 1 further south and further west. And District 1 and District 1 is close to the ocean. Let me switch on District 5 here. And District 4 does not touch the ocean. District 1, however, still does touch Highway 101.
And presumably, you could make District 1 touch the ocean in the same way that you did on the last map on 504, right? By just
Splitting,
splitting,
yes, we could.
yeah.
You'd still have District 4 that doesn't. So as we're going through the discussions, I can bring up this view that we're looking at and hone in closer by census blocks, or we can look at the overall maps in PDF form. It's 504. There's 505. So tonight, our goal or our hope is that we can land on one map that is suitable for this council, and then at your next meeting, you would have the official introduction and adoption of the ordinance adopting a map. With that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, Deirdre Martin.
Before we open up hearing, I had called Shalice to ask her a few questions, and I wanted you to talk a little bit out loud about the sequencing. And in the sequencing of map 504, so sequencing is when we would have the elections in those districts. In draft map 504, sue voter loss, and this was one of the council goals, which was to respect the re-election, the potential re-election. District 1, sue voter loss would be able to rerun, but District 4, I would be able to rerun. In draft map 505, and this is not to say we can't, discuss and rediscuss tonight. From what I understand, Sue Vaterlas would be able to run in 1, and because I live in area 5, that there is sort of an issue with another at-large council member that would be incoming, serving a 4-year term in that.
Deirdre, you're in 4.
District 4.
4.
In
505, you're in District 4.
no.
Yes.
See the little flag where Terranova High School is? Right there. You and I are in the same district.
Oh, okay, then it's you. Then it would be you, and it's not Sue Beckmeyer, it's you.
Right.
That we would, so can you talk a little bit about what the process would be in 2020 for the sequencing of the elections?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. So for those of you who are new to the process, once we are getting down to selection of the maps, we also need to assign which election year the districts will come up for election. And typically, we assign that district the same year as if there's an incumbent who resides in that district for a number of reasons, for continuity, saves confusion, and it's a lot more understandable for the public. So, for example, if you have a council member whose term is up in 2020 and you assign them to a 2022 election cycle, they would have to sit off for 2 years and then run again in 2022. So it makes sense to align where you can. So you'll see on each map we have proposed election sequences. So on map 504, for districts 1 and 4, it's proposed that those election cycles are 2020. And for districts 2, 3, and 5, it's proposed that those are 2022. And what happens is it takes 2 full cycles for your map to be perfect. So those members who were just elected in 2018 serve at large. And it does not matter where they reside, they serve at large. It may be possible that council members are paired in the same district. So hopefully, if council members are paired, they're on the same election cycle, but that's not always the case. So if council members were paired and they were on different election cycles, it would be, and I'm not sure that we actually have that, we'll have that case, but if someone was just newly elected and they're going to serve through 2022, once we get the maps selected and they happen to be living in a 2020 district, they would continue to serve in 2022 as an at-large member. However, they could have the opportunity to run for the 2020 seat. So 2 years from now, run for the 2020 seat. If they were successful, they would vacate their 2022 seat. So it gets a little bit complicated.
So I could run against you.
So can I ask questions? So if, we can talk in reality here, because if Mike were to rerun in 2020, he would,
Can't, because of term limits.
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you have a sit-out provision?
No, we have term limits, so he would be done in 4 years anyway.
No sit-out, okay.
Right. Okay. Well, that answers a lot of my questions.
Yeah.
So that's what, in addition to selecting a map, we'll also be selecting the sequencing.
I just wanted to kind of ask a general question too, is so tonight, we're going to give you our feedback on what map we like. And that's the map you have to publish and then bring to us December 10th, right?
Yes.
And-
If there are
okay.
revisions we have to publish, if you adopt one as is, then we just move straight forward to,
Right, so we're not voting on it, but we're kind of giving you direction that 506 is the one we want or whatever, right? Okay.
But if we, if we don't settle on a specific map, you know, we say, okay, we like 504 and 505, we can bring them both forward to the next meeting?
yes, that's not the ideal, but that is a possibility.
Okay,
So ideally, you would be going in knowing which one you want to adopt. If it's not possible to reach that consensus tonight, then you could go into your next, and right before you, and then you land on one and then adopt your ordinance attaching 504, 505, 50 whatever.
I thought there was an issue that 12/17 was the last date because it's like 90 days we had to adopt them or something
Well,
like that.
What I wanted to add is that what you can't do is make revisions on December 10th. So if there are two maps that are attached and there's the ordinance, the council will need to say, here's the ordinance with map A or with map B. You can't make revisions, right, Shalice, on that date without pushing us into January, and
Right,
which of
okay.
course raises all kinds of safe harbor legal concerns.
Right.
So,
yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, Councilmember O'Neill, did I answer your question? So
Yeah,
then-
no, the question's answered. I just wanted to clarify that what we needed to do tonight so that we were prepared for December 10th, because I knew there was ramifications if we didn't do it by the 17th or the 10th, whatever.
I believe the deadline is December 24th.
Yeah, I don't want to be here Christmas Eve. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Sue, do you have any questions?
No, I'm going to need you to summarize everything because it's really difficult to follow.
Okay.
But I think everything you've done has been pretty much discussed the last time, correct?
Yes.
And is there any new map besides 505?
Not at this time. However, there was a map that was submitted to the contractors, but they didn't receive it or notice it somehow, and so it was not published ahead of time, and so we can't consider that map. But what we're going to do is we can consider revisions to one of the other maps that we do have published, like 504 or 505 or whatever, that would make sense with respect to whatever they wanted in the map that that wasn't published.
And 504 was a new map.
So in the 504, we have put Valimar together, correct?
Yes, it's together in both 504 and 505.
And the other thing was the Fairmont question. I think I had a question. So I've been traveling and I haven't been able to read because I get vehicle sickness. So I did learn that the Fairmont Homeowners Association wanted to be in the same map, but I also heard that whatever we do regarding the districting map would not affect their business operations. So I'd like clarity on that when the time comes.
The audience can't hear her. So
Yeah.
can you put the speaker down a little closer, maybe they can hear?
Can you guys hear Sue?
Yeah, I think they can.
Okay.
So, can you repeat that last question?
So regarding the Fairmont situation,
Yeah.
I know that the Fairmont Homeowners Association feels that they should be in one district.
Right.
I also learned that any district mapping we have, if it happens to split Fairmont, that it would not affect any of the deliberations of a homeowners association, theirs in particular.
I think that's correct. Is that correct?
And
Yeah, I think what Councilmember Degree is getting at, which I had commented on previously, is that remember that these districts are just for council elections. So a homeowners association that's conducting their business, or the city council that's conducting their normal business, is conducted by the entire council. It's just that if you have a neighborhood that's split by districts, you know, those residents only vote for the candidates that are in their district.
Right.
Right, but I think the concern of the homeowners association is that they want to be able to go to one particular person and not have to go to two council people. And as far as I can tell, the integrity of the association is maintained by Section 1 or District 1. Correct?
I don't know, but I think our first speaker will speak to that.
Okay.
And so are there any other questions, or did we
I
answer?
think for now, I'm fine.
Okay, okay. And I don't see any other questions from council, so I'll open the public hearing, and the first speaker is John Sebastianelli, and he will no doubt enlighten us as to what the Fairmont Homeowners Association wants and what that map looked like. And so I'm going to give you special dispensation on time also, if you need it.
Thank you, council members. I'm John Sebastianelli.
Can you lean into the mic a little bit?
I'm John Sebastianelli, president of the Fairmont Subdivision Improvement Association. And as we heard earlier today, it's unfortunate that the map that we submitted on time on Monday, November 19th, due to an error on the part of the recipient, did not get included. Which makes it difficult because I don't have the detail to redraw a map. What I can tell the council members is I think 504 is the closest we have to including all of the residents and members of the association in District 1, with the exception of Fairmont West. So if we're looking at map 504, if we were to pull back from the coast, if you will, and expand out the area about in the midsection of the pink area of District 1, that would include all of Fairmont. I'm at a very distinct disadvantage because I can't draw this map. I don't have the numbers to hit the 7,447 mark. I'm going to have to rely upon the consultant to assist in making that determination, because obviously we can't be within 745 outside of that differential, as I understand it. So that's our position there. I would say that the map that we have here, I think 504 accomplishes two things. If it's augmented, as I just mentioned, and also it does include 2020 as a District 1 election cycle, which was the second point that the Homeowners Association wanted me to make as well. There was.
So can I ask you a couple questions? So on map 504, for example, Coral Ridge Drive and the west end of Catalina Avenue are in District 2, not in District 1. Are those within the Fairmont Homeowners Association?
Yes.
Okay.
The difficulty is some of those streets are not completely within the homeowners association. In other words, as they continue on, they may go outside the boundaries of the association. I can't tell you precisely where that starts and where that ends on the fly.
Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem Vadalas mentioned that
Crestmore Circle, Beachview.
Beachview and Crestmore Circle.
That's correct.
Okay,
Beaumont's the one I think that goes,
We have some resident members in Beaumont as well,
but not like Gordon or Shasta. Sorry,
not on Shasta.
Gordon, Shasta, Beverly, Edna, those are all in Edgemar.
Correct.
okay. Okay. All right. Crestmore.
So if you added 64, 126, 256, 175, 219, and 115, that's a lot of people.
And
And
194.
194,
Yes.
Yeah,
that's quite a lot of people.
You'd have
Yeah.
to cut off some.
Right, just for statistical purposes, I know it was reported in the, on the front page of the November 21st edition of the Pacifica Tribune, that, it says what Fairmont Homeowners Association wants is impossible. There are too many people. That is not factually correct. And the reason I testified last, I guess, the previous Saturday is that we had no opposition to including a population outside of the association in order to achieve the number that we needed. Our population of HOA members is approximately 6,600, so we would be short approximately 800 people, and that was the reason for my comment. So we're not too large or have too many people within our association footprint.
right. But as you know, we have to include the apartments along Gateway, and those are, a lot of people. And we also have to include along Inverness and Heathcliff, which I think are outside the homeowners association. Am I correct?
Well, I think the map can be drawn any way you want.
Well,
I don't
no,
think there's
I'm
any
saying-
limitation as to where you draw the line, so we don't have to include anything, we don't have to exclude anything, so I think that's, I don't see how that impacts our discussion this evening?
I'll tell you how it impacts our discussion. The reason is that Sue Vadalos lives on Heathcliff Drive. And in order to have District 1 come up for election in 2020 to meet the desired election sequence, which is desired, by the way, because District 1 contains the Asian American population that is, purported to cause this redistricting, okay? So District 1 has to come up first in the election sequence, and therefore it has to include Sue Vadalos' residence.
Right, and I see that in map 504, so I think we're good there.
Yeah, that's true of map 504 and 505. Both of those are pretty much identical with respect to District 1 at this time.
Right, what I'm suggesting is that 504 be augmented or revised, if you will, to include that middle section and take out a little bit of District 2 and maybe pick up District 2 and pick up that section in the upper left-hand corner, rather, of District 1 to kind of get a balance.
Upper left hand.
So therefore, District 1 would lose the ocean the touch of ocean, correct? From what you're saying?
Well, I think so, but if you want to do what you did for District 3 and provide a sliver, I guess that's one way of carving it up.
No.
Because I'm looking at 504, and if I'm looking at this correctly, District 3 has just a sliver of the ocean.
So the census blocks that are in Fairmount West that are on, for example, Palmetto, Magellan, I've forgotten, Golden Bay, are those in the Fairmount Homeowners Association also?
Some of those streets are within our footprint. Whether they're totally within our footprint, I'm not in a position tonight to confirm or deny that.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Because all those lower streets down in this lower area are Fairmont West.
Actually, if you look on page 24 of the materials that were handed out at the last meeting, that has the exact footprint of the Homeowners Association.
Right.
So that's probably a good reference point for the council.
That was the November 17th meeting?
Yeah, it's the, is it the hand-drawn map?
Actually, it's the one behind it. It's in narrative form.
This one?
Right. Got it.
That's probably the most accurate information available. And what we did when we submitted our map on the 19th, we took into consideration those numbers, and we actually did, I think, a very good job. Instead of having a differential of 745, we actually had a lower differential of 694.
Okay, the narrative form doesn't have streets. It refers to units, which I assume are probably a reference to surveys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I can make it easy. I'm referencing something here that I think if we add it up correctly, we achieve the goal. And just for the record, if you'll indulge me, I'll just read those numbers.
Okay.
For the, and maybe someone who has a calculator can verify our figures. I'm going to read from basically left to right, and the numbers are 357, 577.
So just for clarification, you're using the population units,
Correct.
correct? So right now on the screen, we don't have the population units showing. Let me go ahead and switch that.
Okay, right.
A little bit more difficult to read, so let's, we can go a little bit more slowly. So 367,
I'm sorry, I'll start again. 357,
357, oh, sorry, it's 357.
That should be 367, I think. Hard to tell the difference, but
Yeah, it's 357. Let's
is
see.
it 357?
Yeah, the
Okay.
numbers don't get bigger, unfortunately.
And then adjacent to that, reading to the right, 577.
right.
Then going north, if you will, 186. Then going to the right, 504. Then going to the right again, 820.
Right.
And then dropping down, we have 927. Dropping down again, 703. And then moving to the right.
Hold on a second, that's the, okay, 703, and that one is currently in District 2.
Okay. And then moving to the right, 1284.
Yes.
Did you say 1284?
Yes. And then moving to the left again, 530, which is directly below 703.
Oh, okay, that also is in District 2.
Okay. And then moving to the right, to the far right, 1375.
Too far.
And lastly, directly below that, 575.
So I get 7,838.
Say that one more time, please.
7,838.
Okay.
Okay, the problem with that is well, no, 1284, okay. And
I think you can have a differential of 745.
right,
Okay.
right, between the most and the least
So if we
population in the districts.
Yeah, I'm doing this on the fly, so I'm,
Right. So are we.
Maybe there's more population.
it looks like we could have 8,201, and you mentioned it was, our number was 7838. So it looks like we're good to the tune of about 400, roughly.
Okay. Could you scroll a little bit, let's see, which direction? To the left. No, I guess the other left. Yeah.
Supposed to be an interactive map.
And up a little bit. So I'm further up. Okay. So 1375, yeah. All right. So I think the difference in this is that it does not include
I can't hear you.
you can't hear, Sue? Scroll down a little bit. It doesn't include the 575 in around Glasgow and Glencourt.
I overlay the census block so we see what the difference is.
Okay. Yeah,
So I believe that the submitter's map follows this line here and does not include this 322 or this
Yeah.
118, is that fair?
Right, so if you
Say.
add those two together, we would still have, we have 400 to play with. So if we augment the map and move it, as you suggested, Mayor Keener, I think we pick that up.
No, the difficulty is that the difference between the least populous district and the most populous district has to be 7,400.
Can be no greater than 10% between, so every other one would have to be perfect on the money, which is nearly impossible to accomplish.
So how close are we, or how distant are we?
Could you switch back to the population units only on this map?
To, I'm sorry, this view, is this what you're looking for, or?
No, we're
Okay, remove the
on the
census
map.
blocks, I think?
Yeah, just, right. Okay, so if we account for 575, 118 and 322, which we don't see right now over here between Heathcliff and Inverness and Laurie Lane. And then we have one more, oops, no, keep scrolling down. Well, we have one more block here that I don't think we actually have to include, but it's the one that's bounded by Inverness, Glencourt, Cypress, and Skyline. And we haven't accounted for that yet. And so go back to the census blocks again. Yeah, that's 508. But that probably doesn't have to be included, just because it's, Sue Vitalos doesn't live in that particular area. So that,
From Glencourt South?
Yeah, in the 508, 66, and 113.
yeah, okay.
So if you remove from Glencourt South
Yeah, right.
and Inverness to the east,
Yeah,
okay?
okay. Yeah, so that's bounded by Inverness, Glencourt, Skyline, and Manor.
Just remove
Okay.
this.
Okay.
This-
So that adds up to 508 plus 66 plus 113. All right. And the ones that we moved from District 2 into District 1, in theory, were 703 and 530. So
1925.
we're pretty close. We're pretty close.
Okay.
Let me make sure I'm tracking with you here. So population units 703 and 530?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I know, it's difficult. Okay, so
Would you like the view of 703 and 530 in census blocks?
no, well, not right now. Let's see. The 575, 118, and 322, which are currently in District 1, but not accounted for in that total of the 7838. Okay, am I confusing you yet?
I'm not tracking where the 575 is that you're referring to.
Okay. Scroll down again.
That would be underneath 1375.
There it is.
Right side.
Yeah. It's right under that window that you just opened. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's right there by Lamond Drive. Okay, that's 575. And then the 118 and 322 are the two census blocks between Heathcliff and Inverness and Laurie and Heathcliff. So those are not accounted for.
So it'd probably be useful if we compare apples to apples, so if we just switch to census blocks, since we must in this
Yeah.
section.
Okay?
So we have a 322, I'm sorry, we're removing a 113, a 68, and I'm sorry, a 66,
568,
68.
think.
Is it 68? I think it's 508. I think it's 508, too.
I think you're right. I think it's
Let's remove the
508.
color underneath it. Let's remove everything underneath it.
$508. Okay.
All right. So removing the census blocks 113, 66, and 508
Right.
in the area of Glencourt, south of Glencourt, east of Inverness.
Right.
And then we'll be picking up census blocks areas. Let's get up here.
Not that far north. Let's see.
Let's see, would you like the map on there real quick so we can see
Yeah.
where the boundaries are?
Yeah.
You know, we're really trying to do this for one neighborhood, which to me, you're breaking up other neighborhoods doing it. And so is every neighborhood going to come forward and say, I want my neighborhood because they got their neighborhood? And it makes it complicated. I mean, I can understand what you're trying to do, but it's going to happen further down too. So just, we're going to have to take note of that.
I would respond this way. This is a formal process. There are a number of maps that have been submitted. We're required to work from the maps that are submitted, and there's no reason to conclude that we're breaking up neighborhoods. This is a
Well, you are.
This is a mandated process, and it's unfortunate that we're spending the time tonight. You know, had our initial submission been processed correctly on the 19th, we would have been able to have
Well,
a
your
more-
map might not have been perfect either. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, we're going through this
Well,
process
I don't think this is
because
productive
we
to
need
argue
go
with
through the
me
process.
over breaking up neighborhoods. All I'm saying is, this is a process that we go through because we have submitted
So
maps.
something happened. You
Everyone
can't
is
go
going to be broken
backwards.
up. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Oh, remember that.
Thank you.
Okay. But let's finish this.
Okay, very good. I think we got a little sidetracked there.
We've gotten this far, and let's go through the process and see where we come out.
So it appears to me that now I've switched back to the population unit, and
Right.
it's Coral Ridge and, oh, darn it, and
Beachview.
Beachview.
Okay, that
Everything
one,
north of Coral Ridge and Beachview. So if we go to census blocks,
that one has to all be included,
okay?
and,
So we know that's 703.
yeah,
And that includes 194, 115, 175, 219.
94,
I think that's it, right?
175, and 219. Yeah, I think that's it, too.
Okay.
Maybe 256.
And then let's look at the other
I think
population unit,
that's in the next one. That's
530.
530.
And
Yeah.
that one extends all the way down to Monterey, looks like. And tracks, is this Coral Ridge that goes all around, or is it a different name?
It is Coral Ridge down.
No, it's Beaumont.
and then it turns into Beaumont.
Okay, so we have a, that 530 is comprised of 126, 256,
Yes, 256. We have to include that.
a 17,
Um, We don't have to include that,
okay. You want, don't
And-
want to include 17?
no, and we don't want to include 33.
Okay,
So I think we only have to include 126 and 256.
175, 219, these guys up here?
Oh, those were in the other,
Okay.
yeah, we don't need to go by the
Okay.
population block.
yeah,
Does that, so the ones we're speaking of,
those
this
were in the other.
Okay.
other
this
block.
126
Yeah, 126 and 256.
and this, so this down to here,
Right.
that's Farallon Avenue. Does that satisfy, is that,
Yeah, I think that hits
And-
the mark. If I'm
and-
reading,
and-
I can't see the numbers, but I can see the street names.
Yeah.
And that, I think, it gets us there.
And that one that has 256 that goes down along Farallon actually includes quite a bit more than what you've drawn on your map.
Okay.
So you've got a few neighbors.
Fair enough.
Okay. So that's what we have, that's what we want to add.
so we're adding 126 to 2, and 256 to 703?
Right. And we're adding in 575, 118, and 322. Those were the districts down near Heathcliff and Lori Lane.
So we removed those from one.
No, we're, those.
Oh, the ones, I'm sorry, the ones that have to be there.
Yeah, the ones that have to be there, the place where you live. So,
Yeah.
so we have,
Sure.
42, 42, there, and,
So we've removed 687 units right here,
okay,
but we're adding 1,000, I believe I come up 1,185. It's quite a bit of difference.
right.
What next?
703 plus 575 plus 118 plus 322. Is that right?
Say it again.
703 plus 575 plus 118 plus 322.
1,718.
I'm sorry,
718.
let's go back. Okay, so we know,
Yes, and, right. Okay.
it may be helpful if we start with the original number in, the original district population was, as this map exists, was 755.
Okay.
So, and from that, we're going to subtract 687 just down in this lower area. That helps us to retain the Inverness and Heathcliff, but eliminate these that are not necessary to be in there.
Okay, and that's 687, right?
Right, so if we subtract that from our starting number is 7,000.
Okay, 7,555 minus 687.
Is that 6868?
Yes, that's what I get to.
6868.
Okay,
Okay, so then we are moving up to this area, and we're going to try to pick up more of the neighborhood up here. By adding this 194.
right. 194, 115, 175, and 219, which add up to 703.
And 126.
I think that's a total of 75, 71.
Wait.
Okay.
194, 150.
So right there, we're good.
Right.
But that doesn't.
Thank you very much.
Well, but you wanted to go to add the 256, which is,
What street is that? I can't read that from
Below
here.
Beachview, Fairlawn.
Right, if we would need to pick those up,
this big strip here.
Did you say we would or we wouldn't?
we would, yeah.
And also 126, because this
Yeah.
is where Coral Ridge comes around.
26 and 256. So that is 482.
What are the, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be really blunt and frank here. What if we leave these out, these last few streets out? I mean, I understand it breaks up your association, but in terms of what you're going to do and how you're going to vote, like, you look for a consensus and endorse as an HOA? Is that, maybe,
Well-
is that okay to ask these questions? I don't know.
Sure.
Well, we are still in public comment, so it may be helpful to go on to, we've heard from this speaker about what he would like to see and how he would like to keep the homeowners association together. And I think council really understands what the content was of his map submission. So maybe at this point, it'd be more appropriate to hear from the public, the rest of the public that's here. And if council during deliberations wants to reopen public comment to ask this speaker questions, it's within Mayor Keener's discretion to reopen public comment period at that point.
Okay, and then can I just make a suggestion that maybe anyone who is in District 1 or 2 gets prioritized because it's so fresh in our brain right now?
Right, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's what we'll do. And if we have further questions, we'll reopen the public hearing and ask you. And is there anybody that turned in a speaker card that resides in District 1 or District 2?
Lady over there. Come up to the podium.
Yes,
I don't know if you could see her.
yeah,
behind the camera.
yeah. And that one's,
I mean, I live in Pacific Manor, and my name is Julie Starobin, and I have actually nothing to say about the homeowners association, what he wants. I wanted to speak in favor of 505 and the revisions that he wants to District 1. I have no objection to, as long as the population gets fixed, but I still think 505, not 504, is the better map. And, well, for one, in terms of neighborhoods, it keeps Rockaway together, it keeps Fairway Park together. When I looked at the statistics for 505, they were very, very equal. It really seemed to equalize both population, voting population, race, language, all of that seemed very equal in 505. So I wanted to push for that one, which I guess is what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I also had a question. I know you can't answer it, but just to think, maybe you can answer it later. So there's sequences, but after 2022, will this stay the same, 1 and 4, 2, 3, and 5? And what if so at some point, will all the candidates not be at large, but have to come from the district they represent? That's right? And what if there is nobody who wants to run from a certain district? What will happen then? It's just something to think about. I mean, you don't have to think about it, but I still think 505 is a much better map. It keeps, like Sue was saying, in terms of, Vanderloos was saying, in terms of neighborhoods, some neighborhoods get split up, but 505 keeps the most neighborhoods together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. And Bill Collins.
I think it's inappropriate for council to be drawing your own districts. It's a built-in conflict of interest. To hear you tonight talk about my district, your district, this is her district, we got to move the lines to suit people. That's the beginning of gerrymandering. I don't want that here in Pacifica. It can get real nasty. And what the voters of California did by initiative is created a citizens committee to draw the lines, and I'm urging you to do the same. You're spending so much time on this, meeting after meeting. We elected you to run the city, not to be messing around with maps. Create a citizens committee to draw the maps and get it done and get it off your agenda. You know, there's the expression, it's the politicians picking their voters rather than the voters picking the politicians. So, second point, and it speaks to a point Julie just made, I don't think you should have to live in the district to get elected in it. For example, in the California Congressional District this month, somebody was just elected, he doesn't live in the district, and the voters didn't care. They knew that, and they wanted to elect that person. And if you live in Fairmont and you want to run in a Manor district, or you live in Sharp Park and you want to vote for somebody from Lindemar, you should be able to do that. I mean, if somebody wants to run in that district, because someday there'll be an election where there's no candidates filed. We don't have that many candidates, and it won't happen often, but it can happen once in a while. So if the voters want to choose somebody who may live across the street, but that's in another district, why deny them that opportunity? That's just democracy. So please don't spend more time on these maps. Get this off your plate. Have a citizens committee do it. The committee would only convene once every 10 years after the census, and you'd save a lot of council members' time, and you guys can get back to what we voted you to do is run the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I've noted everybody's questions so far, and we'll get to addressing them. But for now, we'll go on with the rest of the speaker cards that I have. So Mark Steckbart, followed by Ron Makel, followed by Carlos Davidson.
Thank you. I'm at a loss of what was going on the past half hour because the Census Bureau population blocks on the PowerPoint are not available to the audience or anybody watching this on TV, and they're not on the website, so nobody knew what was going on. So I think that's fairly offensive that something of this importance, the only people that don't know are the voters that it affects. So if you could put them up on the website quickly so we can make an informed decision on what you were just talking about on PowerPoints, nobody can see, even in the front row.
They are on there. I'll be happy to
okay.
demonstrate.
They're not in the packet in back, that's for sure. All right, the other thing, too, is when can this be amended? I'm hearing December 10th, nothing can be done, it's up or down, or December 24th. I would suggest that you block out a specially called meeting right now, because this is not going to be, in my opinion, approved December 12th or 10th. District 1 has to remain a priority vote in 2020 because it's the protected class, and I'm sure plaintiffs' lawyers are watching this on direct feed, and they have an interest in making sure that that stays as it's supposed to under the Voting Rights Act. I think residency is important. I think any candidate should sign a penalty of perjury. They live where they say they live in the district that they're running for, because plaintiffs' attorneys are not going to let anybody outside of District 1 carpetbag in for all of the most noblest purposes to hijack the California Voting Rights Act. So you got to live where you say you live, except for maybe a very small period of time vacating for remodeling. The final thing, now that you're arguing about contiguous neighborhoods, every map of District 1 from 1 to 5 shows that Beaumont, Fairlawn, and Coral Ridge are out. It's a very minimal omission. So District 1 is fairly intact, Fairmont Homeowners Association, in all 5 maps. The final thing is map 504 splits Fairway Park, and I don't think they like that. I've talked to several people there who have recently become very active in city council matters, and they don't want to be split in half. So you might want to merge them and go with map 505. Other than that, and I wouldn't worry about shoreline connection. That's not the intent of the California Voters' Rights Act. That is sort of like a straw man. You should have contiguous neighborhoods and then a good, solid minority voting block in District 1. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ron Makel, followed by Carlos Davidson, followed by Dinah Verby.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't know where to start. I appreciate what we're doing here. I think this is nice to see Pacifica move up into the 21st century, and I do consider that this one of those things. It might give us an opportunity to get some people of color or different ethnic types on our council and some of our commissions as well, I'm hoping. I like, out of the 2 alternative maps we're looking at, draft maps we're looking at tonight, I find 505 to be the most suitable, partly because it's visual, a little easier to see, and it's simpler. And also the fact that you've got, of course, our concerning sea level rise issue along the coastal zone. This really would just break it into basically 2 major areas, the blue zone and then the green. Then, of course, there's a little bit of area, the 3rd zone would be down towards Linamore Beach, Peter Point at the southern end down there. But for the most part, it would simplify the sea level rise shoreline issue there. And I think that the previous speaker was right in terms of Fairway being broken up in the other draft map of 504. So I prefer the 505 map. Was that the other thing too is just to go a little bit outside of this, I think it's still relative, is I would really like to see when we do get council people elected based on these districts, that they would take a responsible role in getting to know these districts very well, the people and the character of the neighborhood, and represent these districts on that standpoint, rather than just being elected to this, out of this district, and then all of a sudden coming here and speaking as a group all the time. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it might be a good idea to get, our council people assigned to these districts as well, and then they could take a focus on these areas. That's all. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I noticed on this, but I think it's a good idea to do this. So I appreciate all the work you're doing. I hope we can move forward on this as soon as possible and get it rectified. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlos Davidson, followed by Dinah Verby, followed by Dave Goodwin.
Hello, Council. Thank you. Thank you for working on this. I think keep in mind that we're talking about democracy and how we select our council members and how we run our city. And so I think the most important principle here is representation and engagement. How do we draw lines on the map so that people feel that they're a part of a community and that therefore they're engaged with their neighbors in making these choices, and that they're represented, that their interests as a community have someone on the council looking out for that. I think MAP 505 does this, of our two choices, does this best and does it fairly well. But I think MAP 504 has two major problems in this regard. One, in 504, District 4 is this big contorted district that runs all the way across town. So there are people in the apartments on Clarendon and people in Frontierland that are in the same District 504, even though they're, in wildly different parts of town and probably have no sense that they're in a community together. And then the second problem on MAP 504 is also with District 4, all along the northern edge, and this is a little hard to see, but if you zoom in on it, all along the northern edge, there are these split streets where the bulk of the street is in District 4, but the end of the street is suddenly in District 3 across the hill, then you're breaking up again the connection with the neighbors. It's kind of crazy, but there's at least 7 streets where the very end of the street, this little finger, is suddenly in a different district, and it seems like that's those people don't feel like they're in a community with people over the hill. So I would urge you to fix those two problems, and MAP 505 does that much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Dinah Verby, followed by David Goodwin, followed by Tom Dearborn.
Thank you, Dinah Verby. I live in Valamar. I want to also put my support for MAP 505. I do think that of all the options that have been presented, that it does the best job of following the natural neighborhoods and keeping communities together. I started making a list just on MAP 504 of all the funky things that Carlos was just describing that happen, where you have a single street that's completely cut off from its neighborhood and goes into a different district. And I couldn't tell from even looking at the map, but it looked like there were swaths of streets like Terra Nova, Prairie Creek Drive, Vassler, that on MAP 504 go in it, kind of snake in and out of districts. And there's like a section that's in one district and then a section on either side of that that's in another district. Anyway, 504 I think is funky and not the one I think we should be looking at. So I would like to, again, support 505. Thank you.
Thank you. David Goodwin, followed by Tom Dearborn.
Thank you, Kitty City Council meeting, for taking this upon yourselves for doing it. I was at the last meeting. I was one of the ones that Valamar was definitely, important to me. Also, the other 2 neighborhoods that were also split. So thank you for coming up with this. 505, I agree, is definitely a plus. It seems to kind of take care of a lot of things. Going back to the earlier first commenter, I see how you guys were just kind of picking numbers. I think we kind of have to revert back to the original reasoning for this. That lawyer cares about those diluting that voting pool. And I think instead of just the numbers, I think we have to kind of pay attention to that, because he is. And that's going to be a problem, because he's already, I guess, he's already charging us $30,000 or whatever just to do this. And so he's going to keep on it. And so I think we need to keep an eye on that. It's nice that we can pick numbers just out of the hat there and move them around, but I think we have to stick with kind of what they were saying. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the final card is Tom Dearborn. Tom Dennison. Tom Dennison. I'm sorry.
Good evening. I'm Tom Dennison, in Area 5. I would like to point out I think associations should be kept together. There are a couple of associations down on Terra Nova that should be as one block, and the same with Fairmont, because they would have common interests. The other part is it necessary for areas to go to the coast? And there's any reason why number 1 and 504, why does that have to go to the coast? And then, as one of the person who prior spoke, the representative should be required to have the residents in the area that they represent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I have one more card, Julie Lansell.
Julie Lansell, Valamar. I just wanted to come up here and thank you for this process, and also really appreciate it. When I initially came in, I picked up map 504, and I was looking at it, and I was drawing things on it, and then I saw 505, and I really think makes a lot more sense. And I appreciate your process, and I know this is a big change for Pacifica to have this kind of election, but we'll see how it goes. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And
Mayor Keener, I have a letter that was submitted to the City Council. I only have 3 copies, so I'll read it into the record and provide you with 2 copies. This is from Ken and Barbara Miles. Dear City Council members, we reviewed the various districting plans currently under review for approval by the City Council. As long-term residents of the Valamar neighborhood in Pacifica, we'd like you to consider keeping the entire neighborhood of Valamar and the old quarry intact within a single district. Valamar is one of Pacifica's oldest neighborhoods and shares some of its unique qualities with the similar neighborhoods of East Rockaway and East Sharp Park, all being surrounded by undeveloped hillsides, having tall trees, narrow streets often without sidewalks, similar pumping issues, etc. Please consider approving one of the following maps. Maps 501, District 2, or 503, District 2, or 505, District 3. These districting maps illustrate keeping Valamar, the Quarry, East Rockaway, and East Sharp Park as an intact political district.
thank you. Okay, I'll close the public hearing for now. Yeah. And Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you.
And bring it back to council. And just first off, I think where we were with sort of realigning districts 1 and 2 would apply equally to draft map 504 or 505. Do
Yes.
you agree?
Yes, I agree. The difference between District 1 and 504 and District 1 and 505 is we did a census block split in the upper right-hand corner, so District 1 touched the coast. I don't see why we could not do the same. It's a zero population if that's the council's desire.
Okay. And where we came out with all that number crunching that we did earlier was 75, 71, and we had 2 census blocks, 126 and 254 in population, that we could not incorporate. Is that a fair assessment of what we accomplished earlier?
Yes, and I can get that on the screen. So the ones that put us over were the, let's see here, I believe it was the 282.
That's it. Yeah.
So right now, we've included, where's my pointer? The 194, the 115, the 175, and the 219.
Right. And that brings our total to 75, 71, which is certainly within the limits that we have, right?
It's certainly within the limits. Another consideration is if we start taking more from District 1, District 2. District 2 started out as being the least populated. So if you take any more from District 2, we're going to get into some bigger, wider margins. So where you are now, it works. If you were to take more, we're going to have to see what that net effect would be on District 2.
Yeah, is that agree?
Hi, Mike O'Neill.
Yeah, okay. Well, just speaking to that is, I personally like 505 also because it does, if you look at 504, it's cutting Park Pacifica, Fassler, and the north end also, as well as Fairway. And if you added those streets on 505, because what you did in 1 and 2 can be transferred to 505, but if you take those streets that are orphans off 505, could you add them to 2 to get your numbers up?
If you go up a little bit.
Yeah, if you see up there, right near where...
Yeah, I'm sorry, the other way.
You're talking to her. Okay. No, I thought you were talking to me.
No. Like Connemara, right there?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's Connemara, and I don't know what these other 2 streets are, the crosses at the end.
Yes.
Make it zoom a little bit. I'm sorry, I lost the...
You got to go down.
Oh, boy.
It's south.
That district is 978. It's one of these huge districts that takes in everything.
Oh, the census thing?
Yeah, yeah.
If she did it by block, could she put those?
She has the blocks up, and so if you look at your...
It's further up.
If you look
She
at
needs
your
to go
screen-
further up. Bring it down some.
Okay, let me...
Further north on the map.
Yeah.
There. Oh.
Whoops, pardon me.
God, I just want to use my finger. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. There.
Oh, yeah,
That's good.
a lot.
Yeah.
It's 978.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of these census blocks that curves around
It curves around.
and includes everything.
Yeah, it goes all the way around this neighborhood,
Yeah.
all the way around.
Yeah. So that's not an option.
Okay, what about over to the left? You see where Paloma, Carmel?
Yeah.
Could they be taken off? Well, that's 2 you're taking off of, huh? And you can't keep taking from 2.
Right.
143 to 98.
Yeah, 2 is the
53.
least populated.
Yeah, so we can't take any more from there, basically, right?
Right. Let's see. Right.
Okay. Okay, and then if you go further south, down to Park Pacifica, there's all, this is 505, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking 504, see these orphan streets down at the south end also.
Why don't you look at 505, since that,
Okay.
seems to be the
That
the
505,
consensus now.
down here by Cabrillo School.
Yep.
Yeah.
This
Down
is
here-
505.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on board with
You
that?
can go all the way down to the bottom. It's to this public school off Fassler. Well, it's not off Fassler, but, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here, you see down here, can you stop here? 110, 28, 26, can those be put in probably 4? because it's kind of off by itself, and that's a really distinct neighborhood geographically. They're all on a hill.
4 has the highest total so far. Well, yeah, it has the highest population of any district so far. So adding stuff to that is probably not good. Both 4 and 5 are more than the average in population.
Yeah. It's just they're kind of like off by themselves.
I know.
I agree with you.
Graphically.
I know. Yep.
I mean,
If you could even split them up between 4 and 5, but to have them into 3
I don't know,
looks
splitting
weird.
them up is, you're
But-
kind of just getting it back to where it is.
But if you're
know.
taking something away from 3 is already below average at 7,300. And if it goes much more, we're getting down into danger zone
You
here.
said we can't take anything more away from 2, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
You could, it's already minus 3.28, so once you start getting close to that 5 number, it really limits every other district.
What about 5? Could we add it to 5? That little, where it says Lindemar, that little,
5 is 7,500, so that's above the average also. So adding more is,
well, they're all above the average. Well, the 4 and 5, right?
yeah.
Well,
So,
can we do a
What-
calculation?
What if we took
and
the,
the other thing I'd point out is that just looking at the display that we've got right now, you know, the 110, 28, and 26 that you want to move, those census blocks, but we have the tail end of Alta Vista Drive and Ortega Court that are going to have to remain in 3 because they're part of a really large
Yeah.
census block.
And it comes all the way down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But could we just add those 110, 28, and 26 to either 4 or 5?
preferably 4, because I think it'd be more.
I don't think
you
it
know, 'cause,
matters. I don't-
Well,
I-
half the streets, half their streets already in 4.
Well, same thing with 5. Same thing with 5. I mean, Sereni, you split it right down the middle. That's actually off of Crespi. It's not even Crespi, which is a major through, way.
Yeah.
So I would say it should be in 5, just because it's almost more of that like lower Lindemar feel, even though it's technically a little bit up, closer to Seville.
It is Lindemar.
I think it actually has more identity with Lindemar than.
It is
than
Lindemar.
That's what I'm
Rockaway
saying,
and-
so-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say it should go with 5, but up to you.
So 110 extra in 5 and, 50-something, the 28 plus 26 in 4?
I think it's better than it is now, yes.
Okay.
Better than it is now, yeah.
You,
Oh, I'd put those in 5 if you can.
Put them all in 5.
110, 28, and 26.
that'll be, I think we'd probably be best to, 26, keep that in 4, and 28 in 5.
Blip.
Yeah. And that'll give us 2 districts that are pretty even. They're around 7650. And District 1, we'd said was 75, 71. And we're going to have to, and so District 2 is probably a little less than 7,200.
What if you extended 2 all the way down to, I guess it's Clarendon?
Hang on, we're not short there. I mean, we're not,
No, she was saying 2 was really small.
no, I know, but let's figure this one out first before we start introducing more.
Well, no, I was just thinking kind of a trade. If you take these, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But let's see if we can solve for this first. Can we, Shalice?
Which one?
For this, where it says Lindemar here, take, let me just repeat what I think I heard, 110 and 28 there, and make them part of District 5, and that 26 at the top, make it part of District 4. Keep that neighborhood.
Oh, 26 to District 4?
Mm-hmm. And then, unfortunately, the Ortega and Alta Vista at the end will have to stay in District 3, but we're doing the best we can.
Right.
Okay, and then, is that, what do we need to do on the top end of that? Does that sound like it makes sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we may not need to make an adjustment.
So this 26 right here
Yep,
is going over to District 4?
yep.
And this 28 right here, and the 110, it's going to District 5.
Yeah.
Your numbers should be okay with that?
Yeah, they should be.
It bumps down your District 3 a little bit, but it's still probably within 3.3%
Yeah.
or something.
Okay. Okay, so now, so there was a bunch of questions that were asked, and I'd like to see if we can get them answered.
Well, let's finish up with
Okay.
with this map right now, this tentative map, and
And we're all working towards a common goal here, and like,
Right.
there's nobody up here that has some wild other thought process, right?
that's right. That's right.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I would have said something, but I'm just making sure we don't.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So districts 4 and 5 are around 7,650 or so. District 1 is 7,570. District 2 is somewhere around 7,175. District 2 is, District 3 is 7,175, I'm sorry. And District 2, let's see, what is District 2? No, I think it actually experienced a little loss.
Oh, it lost and gained.
Yeah. It lost about 15, so it's 7185, I think.
that's still okay.
I think so.
Okay, so what that does not, I'm just putting out there, what this does not solve for the Fairmont Association thing. There were still a few blocks that we didn't figure out before we actually closed public hearing.
Right.
And then we also wanted to make sure we got.
And I think we've done all we can for the Fairmont Homeowners Association. I think those last two districts, those last two census blocks added up to 482. They
Yeah.
were 126 and 256, adding up to 482.
I unfortunately would agree with you. We spent an hour on that alone, and also tried to work out some other neighborhood connections, not just today, but previous discussions.
Yeah.
And that's probably more time than we spent on any other area. And I understand that there were some complications with the receipt of the map submission.
Right. Right. But I think, he's happy with how far we've gotten. Are you happy, John?
We have to open up.
Okay, we've made progress.
And Mr. Mayor, I have an update on the status of the map that was submitted. We did ultimately end up finding the attachment he submitted. Our technical people kept that first schematic and thought that was it. And there was a second full map that was drawn. I had a technician quickly do the district that was drawn for District 1, and that was population balanced, but does not pick up the Inverness and
Heathcliff
area.
Yeah, okay. Right. Right. Okay.
We wanted to pick it up?
And then,
Yes, we do, and we have.
and
I thought you just said it does not.
No, his map.
The submitter's map.
The homeowners association submitted. They weren't considering, where Sue Vitalos resided. Yeah.
okay. So do you want to try to get answers to the questions? I wrote some of them down. I don't know if
Yeah, and I did too.
Okay.
So, first of all, regarding the sequence of elections after 2022, I think it's fairly straightforward that in 2024, you'll have districts 1 and 4. In 2026, you'll have districts 2, 3, and 5, right?
Yeah, or 2020 is the next one we need to use. So it'd be 2020, 1 and 2, and then 2022, 2, 3, and 4.
No. 2020 would be 1 and 4.
Right.
Okay. And 2022, yeah, 2, 3, and 5.
Yes.
Okay. And continuing on in that same way every 2 years.
And the question around that was, after 2022, will the map stay the same?
And I think on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it will actually potentially be redrawn in after 2020 for the election in 2022. Is that, I see the city attorney grabbing her mic.
Well, keep in mind that the census will be updated in 2020.
Right.
So the districts will most likely or may need to be redrawn after the census publishes its information.
Yeah. At any rate, yeah, city council will have the opportunity to redraw after the 2020 election. And after the 2020 census data comes in, I
Correct.
should say.
Correct.
Just out of curiosity, we have that, what was it, 900 and something block in the middle? Is there any input we can give? Is that, could they jigger their districts? I imagine when they can't, but I just thought.
Input to the census.
To skew the
folks, you mean.
census data?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, no, it's just that there's that one block with 900. That'd be nice if we could get the orphan streets in.
Well, there's the other one with, 1,000 something that comes off to District 4 also. And the same,
The other question
same objection.
The other question around that same time was, what happens if no one, so the question was, do you have to live in your district to run your district? Do you only get to vote for those people in your district? The answer is yes. And what happens if no one runs? Then the council, I believe, can appoint someone.
Correct. So the CVRA, the California Voting Rights Act, does require that the council member reside in the district for which he is elected, and if there is no one in that district that runs, then council could appoint a council member to sit in that seat.
Okay. Regarding a citizens committee to draw this to avoid gerrymandering, of course, that, they could be accused of gerrymandering also, but at least they wouldn't be drawing a district, for, potentially their own voters. The problem with that is the very short timeline that we have. So practically speaking, and I don't see Bill Collins around. I think he's left, but that just isn't practical given the timeline that we have to adhere to in order to keep our expenses down to the lawyer Schenkman down to $30,000. And we've established that a person does have to live in the district in order to run. Isn't that correct?
Correct, that's
Okay.
correct.
Let's see. Okay.
Mayor Keener, if I might add to that, our office was approached about a bill that was recently passed by the governor. It's SB 1250 that deals with residency under the Elections Code, but that bill only applies to, it actually only applies to members of the legislature or representative of Congress. That doesn't apply to local officials under the California Voting Rights Act.
Okay, very good clarification there. Yeah.
Can you just clarify that? I'm sorry. So residency under the Elections Code, what was the inquiry?
Somebody inquired about a recent bill that was signed by the governor in September of 2018. It's SB
1250.
SB 1250, and it amends a certain section of the Elections Code, but that specific section is not under the California Voting Rights Act, and it only applies to members of the legislature or Congress.
So the question was posed, do sitting council or elected council have to be a resident of the district?
Right. The question that was posed was, does that bill affect whether or not a local representative has to reside in the district?
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So another speaker said that we should be careful when we're jiggering the numbers around that we don't make our protected class split between districts, and I don't believe we have, but I would ask Charisse she will certainly make sure in the statistics that accompany the map that we haven't diluted the protected class in our jiggering of districts 1 and 2. Can we get a look at that right now? Can you look at in the census blocks for districts 1 and 2?
It may take some doing.
Okay.
I had previously taken the schematic that the Fairmont neighborhood had supplied, the very rudimentary basic one that was in the last packet, and created a map. And that retained a plurality for your Asian American community, about 45%.
Okay.
We did make some changes to that. and we can see how that affects it. I'm not sure if we can do it on the fly here, but
Yeah, but I think probably we're okay.
yes, I'm certain you'll still have a plurality. It may drop the percentage slightly.
Okay. And I think those are all the questions. Do you have any more questions written down?
No, I don't.
Deirdre?
No.
Okay.
That was it.
Anybody else? Questions
Oh,
from?
there was something about amended, could something be amended? I couldn't get it, forget it.
I looked up the word gerrymandering, and it's basically Democrats and Republicans, and we are a bipartisan election. Nonpartisan, sorry, wrong. I was
That's
tired
right.
before I came. A
Who wants to claim to be a
nonpartisan,
Republican up here, huh?
sorry. So they indicated that gerrymandering doesn't apply except for in those issues. Then just,
Yeah, and, you get weird-looking districts that are made to concentrate all the black voters in one area and so on. So it's race and parties and so on.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the case here. I mean,
No, I don't think so either.
well, basically, we are putting one
Well, that's 'cause
district
we're
with
forced
one
to.
race, but we're made to.
Yeah, right.
We'll just be sure they have the longest lines.
Oh, be careful. Don't say that.
We don't even have
Even
lines.
joking.
We don't have lines anymore. It's all mail-in.
There actually were lines.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
St. Peter's and school district. They should put one up at the north end. The voting machines. There should be one up there too.
Yeah, there should.
Shouldn't have any.
Let's see.
What are we doing?
She's drawing the map the way that we indicated to see if we changed
Oh,
the population.
See, I believe this is a little bit difficult to do without the,
Right, that,
I believe this area comes out.
right, it does. Yep,
And I believe
Sue's still there?
this area comes out, this little one.
Yeah, she's on.
And I believe, I wish I could have both on my screen at the same time with those census blocks.
yeah, I know.
This one comes out, the above Beach.
I thought it was
The lower one by
the lower
Edna.
one by Edna and Coral Ridge, bounded by Edna and Coral Ridge. That one? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Let me zoom it, so make sure I have it correct. Let's go back to. Okay, as we said before, this is a little bit cumbersome, but you can see how we're doing here. Does that look?
Yeah, and
Too many down here.
down below Heathcliff, there's a little bit more that,
Oh, yeah, Inverness right here.
no, down between Heathcliff and Laurie, yeah, that has to come in.
Oh, above Glencourt. Okay.
No, between Heathcliff and Laurie.
This area here?
No, go to Heathcliff, down and Lori Lane, there. So, right in there. There you are. That has to go into District 1 because that contains our protected population.
Oh, does it?
Me?
Sue Vardalos.
No.
There we go.
There.
All right.
Does that mean one side of the street's in one district?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I
In
mean,
a lot of locations.
Live in Lori, that's why.
oh, you did? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
On where? Lori?
Lori Lane.
Can't tell you that I've got it exactly right.
That
It's
looks pretty good.
it's
It-
difficult doing it
It looks pretty good.
from this point. I don't think that's where we ended up with the population, however.
No, we had 75, 71.
I may be missing something. Just to give you an idea of,
44.1.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
that's for our Asian American population, and we're missing some, so it will likely boost. We're missing something on here. Like I said, I did this very
Right.
quickly.
Yeah, I know, under duress.
Thank you.
Yes.
There could be some I'm missing even here.
But you think you have what you need to make it happen?
Oh, yes. So I'm going to, if you'll indulge me, I want to go back to the viewer and identify each of the changes.
Okay,
Okay?
yep.
All right. Okay, so just to recap, we'll go in the same order that we made the changes. So this is, like I said, kind of a slow process moving around on the screen, but our base map is 505.
Right.
Just get home and. Our first start was in this area, this defined area. A little bit bigger. I believe this was the start of our area, 113, 66, and 508. What we will be doing is, this is Glencourt Way along here, bounded by Inverness. So we'll be removing 113, 66, and 508, taking it from District 1 and placing it into District 2. Yeah. Everyone agree on that
Yep.
section? Okay. Then on the next area deals with this area here. Get this a little bit bigger. And what we'll be doing is taking from District 2 and placing it into District 1. And we'll be taking 194.
Yep.
Right here. 115. These numbers, for those who are trying to follow our population numbers, 175 of
Yep.
census blocks and 219.
Right.
Okay? That completes that first grouping.
Mayor Keener, before Shalice leaves the northern part of Pacifica, I did want to ask about the section over by Muscle Rock up there, because that was mentioned as there's no population there. And
Right.
I think the council just mentioned that, but didn't express a preference about whether to add that to District 1 or not.
So it does touch the ocean.
Yeah.
It has nothing in it. We did that, have
Yes.
it on one of our maps.
We had that on 504. Can we
Yes.
have that also on 505?
So the upper, the furthest north west corner. And the line would go right across here, so it'd match this census block and look normal, which is what we did on 504.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
the next
Thank you, Kevin.
grouping deals with, we're adding to District 5 and taking from District 3.
Right.
Whoops. It's probably driving a lot of people crazy. Sorry. We're dealing with the Lindemar area. I don't know why my numbers turn that color.
I don't know either.
Oh. It's going to make them harder to read for me. It was something I did. What we're going to do is first take the 28, which is this one right here. 28 and 110.
Yeah.
And we're moving it from 3 into 5.
Yep.
And then we're taking 28. 26. Oh, is it 26?
26, yeah.
And we're moving it from 3 to 4, or to,
Yeah.
yes, it's 4.
That's right, 3 to 4.
Mhm. Those are complete the changes that I've noted.
Yep.
Okay?
I think that's everything that we've agreed on. And that is basically the best we can do, I think. Sue, are you still there?
Yes, I can't see any interactive maps if you're writing on them, but I'm pleased with myself that I actually was able to keep the census and the streets and your numbers, so I've been able to follow.
Good.
I think you've done a great job, and thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I do like 505, and the changes are good.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay.
I think
We have our direction.
we're done. Are we not?
Kevin, do you need any more questions answered? or-
I have a question, though, and that relates to the noticing for the December 10th meeting. So what's the status on that?
As far as noticing of the public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, so a notice of public hearing for the December 10th meeting, introduction of the ordinance for districting, was sent to the Pacifica Tribune for publication in this week's Tribune, which would have been November 28th, yesterday. Due to a printing error, it did not run in the November 28th Tribune. We need 10 days notice before the meeting for that public hearing notice. I was able to contact the San Mateo Daily Journal, and they will be running the public hearing notice in their newspaper on Friday's newspaper, which would allow for the sufficient notice for that.
Will
notice.
allow sufficient notice.
Yes, the Pacifica Tribune will run the public hearing notice in next week's Tribune. So there will be, some public notice there, not meeting the legal requirements, but will meet
Right.
those legal requirements by the Daily Journal publication.
Okay, good.
And just to clarify, the other hearing that we have, or item on the 10th, relates to the sea level rise adaptation policies, and that notice was run in yesterday's Tribune.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. We don't need a motion or anything? Okay.
I have a question, John.
Oops, we have a question. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, we're talking about elections, so if we can say that we want to agendize this now or wait, having a voting place in the north end of town and the south end and central, when is a good time to discuss agendizing that?
No.
No, the direction was that the sequencing, Sue, would be,
She's talking about machines, voting
Yeah,
machines on polling day.
She's talking about a voting location, and that actually is decided by the county,
Elections officer.
elections office. That's the best way to church. I'm forgetting which of his titles applies to it, but
We can probably ask.
I think we can just write a letter and say, you know, we would like to have one in the north end, because the two at the south end were mobbed, from what I was told.
yeah.
The lines
I
were
don't think we
pretty-
should have any.
Yeah, well, the lines were long.
We do need to do something. I think we need to speak up for our community.
Yeah,
So I would recommend that you give direction to the city manager to possibly put that on an agenda in the future for a discussion item.
okay. That's what Sue Degree wants, and I think several other council members.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Are you through, Sue?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Just to clarify on that, so the direction would be for the council to discuss considering, directing the city manager to send a letter to the elections office concerning the location of polling places in Pacifica.
yes, I think so.
North end specifically.
Yeah,
There's-
specifically to have more in
Yeah,
the
'cause there's two at the south end, and I don't think there's any at the north end that I know of.
Right, correct.
Okay. Good. All right. Thank you, Sharice. And
Thank you.
we are actually adjourned now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Very good.
Way to hang in there without any visuals.
Well, I couldn't have the interactions. I'm pleased with myself. Of all people who's not techie, to be the one away from the community.
Yeah.
You did a good job. And thank you. You were all very clear. I was able to keep up.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.